Okay, so today I was just thinking about the puff in the sand yesterday, the jig that I tied. You know, I remember going out with my grandfather when I was younger, and I'd been a couple of times with him before, and he goes, "Oh, we're going whiting fishing." Anyway, so we rock into the boat, and he pulls out this 8-ounce brick of lead, and I had my fandangled new fishing rod as a kid, which, yeah. And so I thought I was going to out fishing with my new finesse outfit, and we got out there, and he's on the banks, and he's pulled out his 8-ounce brick of lead and on a hand line, decent hand line, and chucked it over the side, and I've chucked my rod down, and within a few seconds, he's got a couple of whiting on his hand line, and he's ripping them up, and I'm sitting there with my finesse rod, and he's out fishing me about 4-1, and as a kid, these are the lessons that you learn, and what I learned was that what he'd done, he'd been fishing since sort of the 20s, and the 8-ounce lead literally dragged through the sand, and it would spray the sand in the air, and this is what drew the fish. So my point here is that we've got this head here that I've picked up, and it's flathead. It's got a flathead on it. But when this hits the sand, it's a bit like a dredge, and it will puff the sand. And so fish are looking for signals that are not directly the prey, but what prey might do, such as throwing sand up. And that's a signal to them that something's moved in the sand, and that's what will draw them over instead of just looking directly for prey. So I've just grabbed this. I grabbed this the other day. So what drawing on yesterday, what I thought back today, and I thought, what is a great jig for Flathead and Flounder is the good old marabou jig, which you see but less prevalent than what it was in, say, the 90s, etc. And you could buy packs of 10 of them. I'm sure they're around, sort of thing. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to tie this marabou jig with a little bit of a twist, because getting back to the Swan River blowfish, they'll attack things, and they rip them shreds. I've been using plastics lately, and you soon go through a packet of plastics because the blowfish have smashed them. I'm going to do a little bit of a different take on the marabou jig. What I'm going to do is add some bucktail hair, which is very robust. And when you get the blowies in, and they grab they'll peck at the tail. Instead of the standard marabou, they've got the buck hair here, which is much more resilient than marabou. So they can peck away, and the jig will persist, and you're not having to swap over lures all the time. And another thing with these products is, like, this is a natural product, and natural products contain keratin, which is a form of protein, and a lot of species like that protein. It actually hardens the shell up of crayfish, crabs, that sort of thing. And it's a little bit of cheating on the old, we've got the gulp scent, that sort of thing. This is the old man scent with the bucktail. So I'll move right on with what we're doing here. So what I'm going to do is just pick off a piece, and it's the old adage that less is more. So I'm just going to grab this, which might go off screen a little bit, to chop off a bit. And so I'm going to chop off a bit, and what I've done here is I've made a few wraps for brevity to get the show on the run, and so I thought, oh, there it is under the marabou. So I've got my little UV activation resin or glue, whatever you want to call it. There's quite a few brands, a few shops have this. So I've stuck some of that on there anyway, with the wraps. And this is a nylon, this is a nylon tie. So what I'm going to do is just jam that on. You probably should ramp it down a little bit with a wedge on it, but we'll have a crack without it. What we're trying to do is centralize that and tie back. I've put that central, and right. So I'm trying to. I'm going to wrap up and down, and you'll notice I didn't go full on hard with the thread when I started out, because the harder you tie, the more that marabou that bucktail hair will spread a bit. So this is going to just provide a bit of a tail, so the blowfish can smash this, and it's not going to get rip the sheds and swap it over straight away. So I tried to find my half hitch thingy tonight. We're mid renovation, so we're a bit stuck there. So I'm just going to do 3 wraps on there. Right. And here we go. So what I'm trying to do is not spread that bucktail, not go too long, but the blowfish can smash it, and it's not going to get ripped off in a hurry. Okay, so there is a couple of different ways of doing this. I was going to just wrap it, but I'm pondering whether I just do I might just do a bit. What I'm going to do is do this, right? I've got those strips there. I'll rip that off. Right. So what I'm going to do is just start at this end. Right. So what I'm doing is I'm just tying this at the back and get some ties on that. Right. So the marabou jig, it's good for everything. If you're fishing for flathead or flounder or whatever, and all of a sudden some salmon, tailor, whatever, whiz past, herring for that matter, you can rip the lure out of the water, cast it, crank it back flat out, and the salmon or herring or whatever, they just love it. White's a good all-round colour. The reason the marabou is actually quite good is the movement. As we discussed before, you've got movement even when the lure is stopped. Just the tide, the current, etc. will keep this moving. This will just keep moving. Right. So this will be telling. I was going to make a dubbing, but I will just wrap it up, and I should have probably followed that up with some thread. So I'm just going to put this in here. Right. This is going to make the end of me. Alright, it's going to be the end of me. So as you can see, I'm just wrapping that down around. You know, proportions are good. This is probably a little bit big, but in regards to the marabou feathers, but we'll make do. So I've just wrapped that around there. I've got some of that UV underneath. Super glue might have been a better option, but we'll see how we go. Right. So these, the marabou feathers, they just flow in the water. Even when they're still, there's a little bit of transparency in them. And they're just an effective way to ride. Okay. And because they will flow in the water, stand still, fish are still attracted to them. And so they get smashed on the still. You want, you want movement. You want movement. Okay, so I was hoping to find some pure red just to stay traditional with this on the collar, the neck. Right. Okay. So we're trying to stay traditional, but what we've done is we've just varied a little bit with the bucktail for the Swan River, where the blowfish just smash everything, and you want resilience. You want some resilience. You want to be able to cast this thing, and right. So what I'm doing is just wrapping up the back of the neck, and this here really just what this does is, it represents the red represents a bit of the gill rakers, blood movement underneath. Apparently, baitfish turn pink when they're under stress, and so red in the gill rakers, that sort of thing. What that does is fish can be attracted to red because it's blood in the rakers. When you open up the rakers on a lot of bait fish, even some larger fish, their gill rakers are red. And so what I'm doing is I'm just putting some of that UV resin, which is great for other things. Obviously this gets used for fly tying, but it can also be excellent if you need to repair a rod guide. If you're at home, or if you got it away, and one of your guides goes astray, goes a bit wayward, what you can do is just pull this out and repair your guide while you're out on that regional trip, and it saves the day. Right, so I've got my UV 9000, which is going to turn on. And what I'm doing is I'm just smashing that UV resin with the UV, which is going to set it off. I've gone pretty thick, but I don't think it's a bad thing. What happens is that you get a bit of light there in the resin. It refracts. Some of the fish actually like. They like a bit of light refraction coming off, that sort of thing. And you got the hot red underneath. I wanted a pure red just to try and stay traditional, but in the renovations I can't find my red floss. I may have run out. It's been a little while. Right. So there you go. Is you got the marabou jig, which has lots of movement. It's got the bucktail on the back for resilience, and it's got volume, and it's a good all-rounder. And so what's happening is you're dragging it through the rocks, etc., for your flathead, and all of a sudden a school of salmon or whatever turn up in the river, and
You give it a flick, and next minute you got a giant herring on your hook, or, you know, or quite a few other species for that matter. There you go. That's the marabou jig.